of our early projects was creating some storage area and some parking areas so that we could actually start to work on the farm. Initially, this was just a gravel road that had been abandoned years ago, and for the most part was pretty wet. So we knew we were going to need to do something to be able to put our Connex shipping container out here and also have room to park and stage equipment as we started to work on improving the forest. This is a picture from the first spring that we owned the property, and you can see the gullies flooded. It was really a wet mess, so we definitely needed to do some work to get ready to be able to be pulling in here in all kinds of weather. First things we had to do was literally clear the gullies so that the road was not a complete swamp, and unfortunately did a lot of that by hand. This is after spending just a couple of weekends and a significant improvement. And as things started to green up, we could start clearing back the brush from both sides of the road because we had a safe place to park. And basically we just had to cut back small trees, use a brush saw, and push everything out to the edges. So we would come out here every weekend, just keep cutting things back, piling the brush up, pushing it back. The road starts to appear because we're cleaning it up a little bit better. But even then, it's really was still pretty wet. And so we knew we needed to bring in more gravel. So we first tried laying down black tarp to just kill the weeds off and see really what we were working with. And that did help us get a better view of how wide we could go with the gravel on each side of the road. And of course, Gunnar always supervising from his management platform. Our next step was to get ready to lay down road fabric on both sides of the road. This is just some plastic that we were using to kill the weeds and keep things dry while we were working there, have a dry place to stand. But the next step is basically we bought from Lowe's about 400 feet of road fabric, and that was about $400. And basically laying that down on both sides so that when we would dump gravel, it wouldn't continue to sink into the dirt. So we just had to roll those tarps out. It's about 12 feet wide, and laying those stripes out on each side of the road so that when we dump gravel, it would stay in place and wouldn't just sink and continue to disappear. Each truckload is about 12 tons of gravel. And before we would spread it each time, we did stake out the tarps smoother. You'll notice these ones on the right-hand side, the road fabric is kind of scrunched up. That was just to keep it out of the way temporarily. We always repositioned it as we drove it out. We just chose not to backdrop on part of this here because we were having some trouble stabilizing the fabric. And so we did the first couple of passes pulling forward, but we do end up having my friend Dean here back up to dump as we got a little better at holding the fabric flat. Ultimately, if I did this again, I would actually probably dig the road bed out a little bit and put down even some larger stone, like 3-inch stone first, and then put down this gravel. This was 57, they call it. It's basically 1.5 inch rock because we wanted real good drainage. We didn't want this to pack down like sidewalk. We really were more interested in having drainage due to the amount of water that we get in this area. this area is where we're actually going to put the Connex storage unit, which is one of those big shipping containers. We're getting a 20-foot shipping container brought in, and we're going to put this layer of gravel on this side down pretty thick. So he's going a little bit slower, dumping a little faster, because we're really going to build that up so that the area that the container is stored in is about 5 to 6 inches higher than all the rest of the road bed, so that will keep the Connex storage unit dry underneath. Just on this one section where the storage unit's going to go, because again, we're trying to make that pretty high. And you may have noticed the small John Deere tractor. My friend Dean let me borrow his tractor then to regrade and push the gravel around a little bit more to make sure the pile was high enough, and also I leveled it out. So I took about a 10-foot 2x4 and was doing leveling with it to make sure that the pad where the Connex storage unit's going to go is nice and level.
Perfect.
So then we were ready for the storage unit, and it came on basically just slightly larger than a pickup truck, because we were only getting a 20-footer. They roll it in and kind of back slip it off the end of the trailer a little bit, so that when they tilt it, they can basically just pull away. So they tilt it down to the ground, and when it's in the right spot, they can just tilt it all the way up and pull away from it. So here you can just back right up to the right spot and tilt it off. We got this Connex shipping container from South Carolina, and they delivered it here in East Tennessee, just west of Knoxville. And the total cost was $2,730 delivered, so total all-in cost. It is used, but was, again, I felt it was a reasonable deal. I think it's the best thing you can do for storage. It's watertight, secure, easy to lock up. You couldn't get a more secure storage building with this much square footage for only $2,700. As you could tell from the outside, I did not choose to buy a brand new shipping container. I definitely went with a used one. And inside, it's got several different tie downs, and really, they did some repairs on the inside, but overall, for a quote unquote heavily used shipping container, it was in pretty good shape. So total cost in was about $1,200 for the gravel, $450 or so for the fabric, and the storage container was $2,700. So really, I don't think you can do much better than that. To have a place to store your RV, that's saving us $80 a month in storage fees for the RV. And now we've got a 20 by 8 foot storage unit that I can put the skid steer in. Overall, this was one of our first projects and a pretty successful one in my opinion. Other than I would definitely put more gravel down because I have ripped up the fabric in a few places.